The Pear of Anguish did not belong to the public stage of justice. There were no gallows crowds, no bonfires crackling in city squares, no triumphant sermons shouted above a condemned man's cries. Instead, this device worked in silence, hidden behind the heavy doors of dungeons, where stone walls replaced the eyes of the crowd. Its cruelty was not designed for spectacle, but for secrecy. And that secrecy gave it a different kind of terror. What the masses could not see, they whispered about. And what they whispered grew darker with each retelling. The wheel, the stake, the scaffold. These punishments were part of a performance. They were lessons carved into public memory. But the Pear of Anguish, it was not meant to be remembered in daylight. It was meant to haunt in shadow. Its horror came from the simple fact that no one knew exactly what happened when it was used. Prisoners were dragged into underground rooms and came out broken, or did not come out at all. The silence of the device was louder than any sermon a priest might give. The object itself gave no warning of the devastation it could cause. Shaped like a metal bulb, it could be mistaken for a tool or even an ornament. Smooth iron petals curved together at the tip, joined at the base by a screw mechanism, closed. It seemed harmless, a cold piece of iron no more threatening than a locksmith's instrument. But once inserted and turned, the petals opened like a flower blooming in reverse, expanding from within the human body, tearing from the inside out. Imagine the terror of those shown the device for the first time, shackled in the chamber, wrist bound in iron. The accused would see the torturer set the pear upon a table, its polished surface gleaming faintly in torchlight. No blade, no fire, no whip, just this quiet, mechanical object. Its stillness was deceptive, unlike the axe that fell in an instant, or the lash that sang as it struck. The pear's cruelty revealed itself slowly, deliberately, through the grinding turn of a screw. It was this quiet that horrified most. Victims could not prepare for it in the same way they might steel themselves for the gallows. There was no dramatic final speech, no last prayer heard by a crowd. Instead, there was silence, broken only by the slow creak of metal and the muffled screams of flesh tearing where no eyes could see. That privacy was the point. The pear was never about teaching the crowd. It was about teaching the prisoner, alone, helpless, and forgotten beneath the earth. And yet, paradoxically, secrecy made the device infamous. People might not have witnessed it, but they heard about it. Guards whispered of the cries that echoed up through stone stairways. Merchants repeated rumors of prisoners who returned unable to speak, their jaws mangled. Mothers frightened their children with tales of sinners, silenced by the iron fruit. The lack of proof made the stories worse, because imagination painted horrors sharper than reality could ever show. The Pear of Anguish then became a weapon twice over. It inflicted agony upon the body in the dungeon, and fear upon the mind in the world outside. Even those who never saw it directly carried its shadow in their thoughts. That was its true genius. It worked as much in rumor as in reality. And rumor, unlike flesh, cannot be killed. In this way, the pear differed from other punishments. The stake left ashes, the wheel left bones, the gallows left corpses swaying in the wind. The pear left nothing visible, only scars on the body and whispers in the mind. No relics to display, no spectacle to burn into memory. Only the invisible horror of what might have happened underground, repeated in stories that traveled farther than the torture chambers ever could. Thus, the Pear of Anguish was not the theater of cruelty. It was the whisper of it. And whispers, carried through generations, are sometimes more enduring than screams. The Pear of Anguish was not the rough improvisation of cruelty. It was not a farmer's pitchfork turned into a weapon. nor a blacksmith's hammer wielded in anger. It was a deliberate instrument, forged with intention, designed to destroy. And that makes it all the more chilling. Cruelty had been engineered into metal, crafted as carefully as a chalice or a sword. At its core, the pear was a mechanism. 4 curved leaves of iron hinged at the base, tightened by a central screw. When closed, it resembled a bulb or fruit, smooth, almost ornamental. When the screw was turned, the leaves spread apart, petal by petal, until the sphere became a cruel blossom of iron. The expansion could be controlled, slight, enough to stretch flesh and muscle painfully, or wide, tearing apart the body from within. Each turn of the screw was deliberate. Nothing happened suddenly. Pain unfolded slowly, mechanically, as if time itself were being weaponized. The precision of this design hints at the skill of those who forged it. Blacksmiths capable of creating hinges that move cleanly, screws that tighten smoothly, iron leaves polished to a deceptive gleam. This was not barbarism born of clumsiness. It was barbarism refined. Some surviving examples are decorated with engravings, their surfaces etched with patterns that lend an almost artistic air. To look upon them in a museum case today, one might mistake them for ornate objects of ceremony until one imagines their true function. And that is what deepens the horror. The pear did not look monstrous. The wheel, the rack, the stake, these wore their violence openly. The pear, in contrast, hid its cruelty within its design. It seemed harmless until it was explained, and then it became unbearable to imagine. Its deceitful appearance mirrored its purpose: to enter the body quietly, to appear manageable until the first turn of the screw revealed its true nature. In this way, the device embodied a kind of mechanical treachery. The control it offered torturers was unmatched. An axe might strike too deep, a whip might break skin too quickly, but the pear allowed for complete mastery over suffering. Each fraction of a turn could increase agony without bringing death closer. A prisoner could be tormented for minutes or for hours, depending on how far the screw was taken. The torturer, in that moment, became both executioner and engineer, calibrating suffering with clinical precision. Accounts suggest that it was used in different ways depending on the accusation. Inserted into the mouth, it shattered teeth, cracked jaws, and silenced speech permanently. Inserted into the body, it inflicted wounds too humiliating to describe in polite company. In both cases, the pain was inseparable from the degradation. It was not simply about hurting. It was about violating, humiliating, stripping a human being of dignity as surely as it stripped them of flesh. What is striking is how the device fits into the logic of its age. The late medieval and early modern periods were obsessed with confession and control. The wheel destroyed publicly to warn others. The pear destroyed privately to extract truth, or at least submission. Its very engineering reflects this purpose: not a weapon of battle, not even truly a tool of execution, but a device of precision meant for the interrogation chamber. A machine of power disguised as an object of metalwork. Yet historians debate how often it was actually used. Surviving examples exist, displayed in museums across Europe, but concrete records of its employment are scarce. Was it truly a staple of torture chambers, or a tool made more infamous by rumor than reality? Perhaps both. What cannot be denied is that someone at some time forged these devices. Someone designed the petals to open. Someone placed the screw at the center. Even if it was used rarely, its existence alone testifies to a mindset that could imagine such cruelty and craft it with precision. That is the pear's most disturbing quality. It did not rely on frenzy, on mob violence, on heat of the moment rage. It was a cold thing, calculated, deliberate. Pain was built into its very mechanism, like a clock designed not to measure time but to destroy it. The smoothness of its screw, the symmetry of its petals, these were not accidents. They were choices. And those choices reveal a truth more horrifying than the device itself. That cruelty can be engineered as carefully as beauty. The Pear of Anguish inflicted its horror in a way that was both physical and psychological, a double assault that left no part of a person untouched. Other punishments destroyed bodies in ways that everyone could see. The wheel shattered bones, the stake consumed flesh in fire. But the pear was different. It was an intrusion, a violation that attacked from the inside out, leaving victims not only broken but humiliated. Its cruelty was measured not only in wounds, but in the shattering of dignity. Consider its use in the mouth, inserted closed. It sat like a foreign weight on the tongue. Then the screw began to turn. Slowly, inexorably, the petals spread, forcing the jaws apart. Teeth splintered under the pressure. The palate tore. Gums bled as they were ripped from their roots. The victim's screams became grotesque distortions, words collapsing into gargled sounds as the mouth was torn into a ruin. A single session could leave someone permanently disfigured, unable to speak or eat again without agony. For inquisitors, that was the point. Silence the liar, silence the heretic, silence the blasphemer, literally take away their voice. Worse still were the uses whispered about in darker tones. The pear could be applied to the body's most intimate places, the vagina or rectum, inflicting agony too humiliating to be endured in silence. Flesh tore, muscles ruptured, blood flowed into the iron petals. Beyond the pain, which was catastrophic, was the degradation. Victims were reduced not only to suffering bodies, but to objects of violation. The torture stripped them of humanity before the screw stripped them of flesh. Unlike an execution, this was not meant to end swiftly. Death was not the pear's first goal. The victim often lived, at least for a time, carrying the injuries as lingering reminders of what had been done. Broken jaws left prisoners unable to testify or plead. Internal tearing left them maimed, crippled by infection or bleeding. For some, survival was worse than death because they carried the humiliation with them. The pear did not merely punish, it ruined. The psychological torment may have cut even deeper than the physical, shackled in a dungeon. Forced to watch the torturer hold the pear in his hands, prisoners knew what awaited them. The slow turning of the screw was a performance of control. Each click meant the victim's body was less their own, claimed inch by iron. They could not fight it, could not stop it, could not even predict exactly when the next turn would come. Anticipation became a form of torture all its own. The shame of the device was part of its design. Public punishments carried a certain grim dignity. Criminals might still shout defiance from the scaffold. Martyrs might still pray loudly as flames consumed them. But the pear left no room for pride. A man reduced to gurgling screams through a shattered mouth could not inspire sympathy. A woman mutilated in the shadows of a chamber was robbed not only of life but of honor. The torture did not allow for last words, for gestures of defiance. It stripped even that final comfort away. Rumors of its use lingered precisely because of this humiliation. Stories told of prisoners who emerged unable to speak, their mouths scarred, their eyes hollow from what they had endured. Others never returned at all, their bodies hidden, their suffering erased except for the echoes carried by guards and torturers. In this way, the pear accomplished what no other device could. It turned agony inward, leaving victims without even the dignity of dying in public sight. And yet, perhaps the most horrifying truth is how ordinary it looked. To an unknowing eye, it was just a polished piece of iron, but for those who had felt its petals open, it was the embodiment of terror. A simple screw, a simple hinge. Yet in their movement lay the power to unmake both flesh and spirit. That was the genius of the pair. Its agony was hidden until it was too late, revealed only when silence turned to screams. Thus, the Pear of Anguish was not merely a tool of pain. It was a weapon of annihilation. It left bodies torn and voices broken, but more than that, it stripped away humanity itself. To endure, it was to be reduced to something less than human, something forgotten, silenced, and destroyed in both body and soul. The Pear of Anguish occupies a strange place in history because, unlike the wheel or the gallows, its legacy is built more on whispers than on records. Official documents rarely mention it. No detailed accounts survive of specific prisoners condemned to suffer under its petals. And yet, the device itself exists. Cold iron relics preserved in museums, their petals still opening at the turn of a screw. The absence of written testimony only magnified its power for what people could not confirm, they imagined. And imagination has always been the greatest torturer of all. In medieval Europe, rumor carried weight equal to fact. Villagers needed only a fragment of truth to build entire legends. A merchant might return from a city claiming to have seen a prisoner led broken from an inquisitor's chamber, jaw ruined beyond repair. A soldier might whisper of screams carried up from the dungeons beneath a fortress. Parents might warn children that liars would have their mouths forced open until they could no longer speak. Whether these stories were true mattered less than the fear they created. The pair's infamy spread not through chronicles, but through gossip. This secrecy made the device unique. Public executions lived on in memory because thousands saw them, retold them, and passed them down. But the pair's cruelty was hidden, known only by those who administered it and those who endured it. For the rest, its reality became a kind of phantom. The very fact that so few had witnessed it gave it a mythical quality. It became the unseen terror that lurked in dungeons, waiting for those who defied authority. The Inquisition, whether intentionally or not, benefited from such whispers. To break a heretic publicly risked martyrdom, but to torture them secretly, with rumors of unmentionable cruelty, instilled fear without spectacle. The pair embodied this strategy. It was the silent rumor, the dark possibility that anyone who stood against church or state might vanish into a dungeon and return disfigured or never return at all. A threat unproven can be more terrifying than a punishment displayed because it keeps the mind restless. Even today, historians wrestle with this ambiguity. Some argue that the pair was more a symbolic threat than a widely used instrument. Others insist that its surviving forms prove it had practical application in interrogations and punishments. The truth may lie somewhere between, but what matters most is that contemporaries believed in it. The whisper of the pair was enough to dissuade rebellion, to silence defiance, to deepen the aura of dread surrounding inquisitorial chambers. What makes this legacy so chilling is how it reveals the power of rumor as a weapon. The wheel needed to break bodies to be remembered. The pair needed only to exist, to sit on a table in a dungeon and be glimpsed in passing, for fear to grow around it like ivy around stone. The whisper of its use became louder than the screams of its victims. Folklore absorbed the device into its lexicon of fear. In some regions, the pair became shorthand for the most humiliating fate imaginable. Writers described it in pamphlets as proof of the Inquisition's cruelty, whether or not they had ever seen it used. By the 17th century, it was already a symbol of hidden brutality, invoked more often in speech than in practice. That was its true power. It did not need to be turned often, or perhaps at all, for it to leave a mark on the imagination of Europe. The threat of the pair was enough, and in this sense, it worked more effectively than gallows or racks. A scream fades once the execution is done. A rumor never dies. Thus, the Pear of Anguish survives less in records than in memory. It was not the theater of cruelty, but the ghost of it, a shadow cast on the mind. And shadows, unlike flesh, are eternal. The Pear of Anguish has long since disappeared from the chambers where it was once kept. No inquisitor stands ready with it in hand. No prisoner waits trembling as the screw begins to turn. Yet its presence has not vanished. The device survives, locked behind glass in museums, reproduced in etchings, retold in histories and documentaries, as a symbol of cruelty refined into an object. Though centuries have passed, it continues to haunt, precisely because it embodies suffering that was never fully seen, only imagined. Unlike the wheel or the stake, the Pear left little visible legacy in the landscape. There are no execution hills that bear its name, no gallows fields where people remember the crowds that gathered. The Pear lived in shadows, and so its legacy is a shadow too. But shadows are persistent. They linger even when the light that cast them is gone. Historians debate its reality. Some argue it was rarely, if ever, used, an invention of fear more than a daily tool of punishment. Others believe it saw limited application in inquisitorial chambers, its very secrecy explaining the absence of detailed records. Either way, the truth is no comfort. If it was used, its victims endured unimaginable torment. If it was not, then its horror was all the greater for being imagined. Proof that humanity does not even need practice to conceive cruelty, only invention. What endures most is the symbolism. The Pear is remembered not for executions, but for invasions of the body and spirit. It is the opposite of the public stage, the inverse of punishment, as theater. It represents punishment as silence, as humiliation, as the violation of what should remain inviolable. Its cruelty was intimate, hidden, and precisely because of that, it remains shocking to modern eyes. The Pear also reveals the unsettling relationship between torture and memory. Devices like the rack or the Iron Maiden have been mythologized, sometimes exaggerated in later centuries, but they linger because they strike at primal fears of being torn apart, of being confined, of being open from within. The Pear condensed those fears into iron. It transformed them into something that could be held in the hand, small enough to rest on a table, yet devastating enough to ruin a life. Even in its absence, it exerts power. Museum visitors shudder when they see it, reading the placards that describe its supposed use. Writers and filmmakers invoke it when imagining the darkest recesses of medieval cruelty. Its memory travels not because of what it did, but because of what it could do. That possibility is enough, and perhaps that is the most disturbing lesson of all. The Pear of Anguish reminds us that cruelty need not always be loud or public to endure. Sometimes it is the silent device, tucked away in a chest, whispered about in rumor, glimpsed only in memory, that proves most haunting. Its petals may never turn again, but the thought of them spreading open inside a living body is enough to keep the fear alive. The wheel shattered bones for all to see. The stake burned flesh into smoke above the crowd. But the Pear, this small, quiet object, outlived them in imagination. It remains a symbol of hidden cruelty, the embodiment of suffering inflicted in silence, remembered in whispers, carried forward in fear. The Pear of Anguish does not turn anymore.